Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. So this is day 5 of the Redis Zero to Hero series. Till now we have practiced basic commands and get some hands-on using Redis CLI as well as Java application. So in this video we will be going more deeper and learning more Redis commands and data structures using Redis CLI as well as Java app, both hand by hand. So guys, for the few videos, our focus would be on learning commands, whatever available in Redis via Redisson library, right? Otherwise, I could have used Spring Data Redis directly, but that abstracts away all the things and people don't get to learn the basic commands and internals of it. So obviously, we will cover the Spring Data Redis as well later in full depth, right? So if you know the commands and internals, you can use Redis with any programming language, not only with Java, and that is my goal. And just a quick reminder, if you have not subscribed yet, I would strongly recommend doing that, because in this series we are going to solve real world problems with Redis step by step, just like it's done in production. So without wasting time, let's get started. Now we are going to talk about one of the cool and mostly used feature in Redis as a part of set command, which is expire. Let's open the Redis CLI and let's run some tests. So we just need to validate whether our Docker instance is running. So if there is anyone new onto the channel and wonder how this Redis instance is up and running, how to set up this Docker Redis instance, so please refer to day 2 of Redis Zero to Hero series. There I have explained each and every step that how we can set up the Redis instance on our machine. Now let's go to this container, right? Let's go to this container. Now we are inside the Redis. Redis can be used to automatically remove certain keys, means we don't have to manually delete it. Redis itself takes care of removing it after a certain time. So now if you do set A space B, where A is the key and B is the value. Now if you see there are multiple options available as a part of set command. Now what all options we have? So we have the EX, PX, EXAT, PXAT. So we will discuss all these options in detail. Now when you do set A space B EX 10, EX means expired, right? So expired after 10 seconds. So 10 is the seconds. Now if you execute this, so it means Redis will automatically expire this key after 10 seconds. Now if you do key star, right? So the keys A is present. Now if you do keys star again, right? So that means 10 seconds have been passed. So there is no key available, right? Now if you do get A, we won't get anything because there is no key. The key is already expired, right? Let's do one more time, right? Set A space B 10, right? So sorry, not 10, set A space B expired after 10 seconds. Now if you do get A, you will get B, right? So if you do keys space star, so you will get A, right? Now if you again do get A, the value is gone, the key is expired. So that is how we can mention the expiry for a particular key, right? Let's clear the console, right? Now if I do keys star, there is nothing, right? Now let's do one more time, right? For example, set A space B expired after 10 seconds, right? Now if you want to know the TTL for a particular key, that how much what is the time to live for this key, right? So you can mention TTL A. TTL gives you the time to live for this key. For example, here the output was 1, so it means it is just 1 second left for this key to be expired, right? So it simply means that, right? Now if you do again TTL A, so it gives -2. So -2 means the key has been expired because it is no more in positive number. So let's do one more time. Let's say set A space B expired 10, right? And if you do TTL of A, so it is giving 8. So TTL of A, it is giving 6. TTL of A, it is giving 4. Now if you want to extend the expiry. You can give expire A and you can give that 60, right? Now if you do TTL of A, now here the expire command has given the output as 0. So it means this command has not been executed successfully, right? Because that's why it has given the output as 0. Now why this command has not been executed? Because when we fire this command, the key has already been expired. Means the Redis could not able to extend the expiry for this key. Now if you see the TTL of A is already expired, right? So let's do one more time. Set A space B expired after 10 seconds, right? Now if you do TTL of A, it is giving 9. Now let's do expire of A 60. Now this time it is giving the output as 1. Now if you do TTL of A, it again gives the output as 55. Now the 55 is the exact number of seconds after which this key A would be expired. Now if you do again TTL of A, again you would get 41. Again if you do TTL of A, you would get 36, right? So that's how you can extend the expiry. Let's clear the console, right? And let's say you want to furthermore extend it, right? So if you see it again, the expiry would start from 60 seconds, right? So it again the TTL for A is 58 seconds is left. Now later some other application or some other user wants to update the value. Simply set A space C, let's say, right? So if the other user updates the value for key A to C, let's say this value has been updated. Now if you run the TTL of A, it gives -1. -1 means there is no TTL mentioned for A, right? There is no TTL mentioned for A, but we have already associated some TTL with the key name. But now this time it is saying that there is no TTL associated with the key. My intention was to just change the value of A. I wanted to keep the expiry intact. So that is when I executed set A space C. But this command has removed the expiry time and everything, right? And it will never expire now. So whenever you do get A, you would get C. So this key would never be expired. So this is one of the common mistake what people does, right? Most of the time. So when you do the TTL of A, right? So if you do TTL of A, it gives -1. So -1 actually means there is no TTL associated with the key, and -2 actually mentions that the key has been expired. So that is the difference between -1 and -2. So our requirement was to just update the value, not touching the expiry, right? So let's see how we can do that. Let's do the flush DB once. Let's start from scratch. Set A space B expired after 60 seconds. Let's say this is the case, right? TTL of A, it is giving 58. So get A, it is giving value as B. Now the other user want to update the value to keep the expiry time intact. So what it needs to do is set A space C. So if you see, there is an option keep TTL, right? So we just need to give that option, keep TTL, right? Now if you do that, if you do get A, it gives C. If you do TTL of A, it gives 30. So the TTL and the expiry would remain intact. The expiry is not changed, right? Now let's see the other options as a part of set command, right? The other options was access and NX. These were the options, right? So if you do set A space B, so these are the two options, access and NX. Let me clear the console, right? So access and NX. So these are the two options as a part of set command which we will explore now, right? So access means do operation if the key is present, right? And NX means do operation if the key is not present, right? So for example, set A space B, right? So if we do that and if we do XX, so what it would mention that set the value of A to B if the key A is present. It would give nil. Why? Because we have already done the flush DB. There is no a key available. If you do get a, there is no key available. But on the other hand, if you do set a space b nx, so it means set the value of a to b if the key a is not present. So this time it is not present, so it would give you okay. Now if you do get a, you would get the value. So till now we were using ex option only with the set command. So for example, set a space b, we were using only ex options, but there are few more options. For example, we can use the px option as well. So if we want to give the expiry at milliseconds level, we can use the px option. So if we do this, right, so the TTL of a, if we run this, we would get 56 because the expiry time we specified in milliseconds level. So on the other hand, if we want to mention the expiry time in Unix timestamp, right, so in this there is an option of ex at, it means the expiry in Unix time seconds, right? So we can use this option. So similar to this, we have the px at, right? So px at means we can mention the Unix time along with the milliseconds level. So these are the four options which we can use as a part of expiring keys along with the set command, right? Now let's start implementing this expiry feature in our Java application, right? Let's do that. So before demonstrating the expiry feature, I would like to demonstrate how we can store the object in Redis, right? Till now we have stored only the string values in Redis. Let's see how we can do that. So let's use this same key value test. So for this, what I will do is I would firstly create one Pojo class, right? So one Pojo class I would create. Let's create one package like models, and let's say I create the Java class as student. Then what I would say is private list of integer and scores. Let's say this is the Pojo, right? And I will use the Lombok annotations, data, no arguments constructor, all arguments constructor, and toString, right? So these are the Lombok annotations which I have used, right? And in the key value test, right, so here what I'll do is I'll just quickly create one test method. So let's copy the same, right? Let's copy the same, and let's say the key value object access test. Let's say this is the test, and let's say we want to create the student object, and in this we have already used, let's say Marshall, or let's give Rahul, and then pen, and then country we need to mention, let's say the India, and we need to mention some scores. Let's say the arrays as list, and let's say 1, 2, right? So this is the student object which we need to store into the Redis. How we can do that, right? Now what we need to do is we already have the Redisson client. We need to get the bucket, right? And bucket we need to get the student one colon 1. Let's say this is the key, and let's say this is not the instance, we will not use this, right? And we'll, let's say the bucket, right? Let's delete this, right? So we got the bucket, but if you remember, we have discussed the serializers part, right? So there I have explained that if we want to store any Java object in JSON format, right, in Redis, we can use that serializer. So what we can do is we can use the same serializer here. So for example, new typed JSON Jackson serializer we would use, right? So let me do this way, right? And here we can pass the student.class, right? So this serializer we can use, and here we can get the student bucket, right? Now in this, let's set the value. Let's say the bucket dot set student, right? Now if you want to see student, let's say this is the cached student, because we are getting the value from the bucket. Now let's print this value, right? Let's print this value from Redis, right? And here what we'll do is we'll just print the cache student. That's it, right? Now let's run this test and see what happens, right? So if you see we got the value from Redis, but let's verify from the Redis console, right? So if we do keys star, so there is a student 1, right? Now if we do get student colon 1, right? So if you see, the complete JSON is there, right? So that is how we can use the serializer to store the Java object into the Redis key, right? Now let's run the expired test cases quickly, right? For that, what I'll do is I'll create the new class, the expired test. Let's say the expired key test, expired key test, right? So what I'll need to do is I'll just need to extend this from base test, and here let's say public key value expire test. I'll do is Redisson client dot get bucket student colon 1 colon name, and for simplicity I can use the string codec dot instance, the serializer, the same serializer, right? And we can use the string here. Bucket is just a placeholder. We just need to associate some expiry along with this as a part of set command. So how we can do that, right? So when we call the bucket dot set, so that's when the set operation is being invoked onto the Redis server. So how we can do that? Set Suhail. Now let's say the duration, right? So here we can mention the seconds. So for example 10 seconds, or let's say for demonstration, let's say 30 seconds. Now if you do string value is equal to bucket dot get, and if we print this value, let's run this test, right? So if you see, the value from Redis is Suhail, right? Now let's see this key get student, the value is there. Let's see the TTL. So if you see, the TTL is still 15 seconds, so that means the 15 seconds have already been passed, so 10 seconds is left, right? So that's how you can mention the expiry from the Java program as a part of set command. Now our requirement is to extend the expiry time, right, from the Java program. How we can do that? Now let's perform that action as well. Let's copy this, let's paste this, right, and key value expire extend test. Let's say this is the case, right? Student 1 duration seconds 30, right? And we got the value, we print the value, we want to sleep for let's say 5 seconds, and after 5 seconds we want to extend the expiry. We want to extend the expiry by 30 seconds, right? Now this expire gives the boolean as a output. So if you see, the boolean is 0 or 1. So as we already seen while executing the expire command, right? So we can get this value whether the expiry has been extended or not, right? So we can just print this updated expire updated, so whether it has been updated or not, right? We can do that, and we can also get the TTL also for this particular key in the Java program. Bucket dot remain time to live, right? So this method provides us the long value, right? So this gives me the TTL. Now let's say I want to print the TTL for this key. Let's run this test, right? So if I run this test, so the value from Redis is this, and once after 5 seconds we extend the expiry, and now if you see the TTL, so it gives the TTL in milliseconds, right? So we got the TTL left is 59 1000 milliseconds, so it is close to 60 seconds. So that means the expiry time has been updated. For example, if we do the TTL of student colon 1 colon name, so if you see, the TTL has been increased. Now similar to what we have done in delete operation, let's say the user gets log out, right? So once he gets log out, this application should be notified, right? Or should be notified when any of the user key is expired. For example, let's say the user access token is expired, right? So this application should be notified, or in real life this Java application should be notified, so that it can invalidate the session if it is having any local cache. So how we can do that? Let's create the public expired event test. Redisson client dot get bucket, right? So what I'll do is, for quick demonstration, I will just copy the same thing, right? So just copy the same thing over here, right? So till this we are good. Now what we'll need to do is, we need to provide the listener, right? Similar to what we performed in delete operation, right? So we registered this thread with the Redis server, so that Redis server can call the webhook onto this application once the key is expired. So we need to provide the listener, the callback actually, right? So how we can do that is, so bucket dot add listener. So for this, what we need to do is expired object listener, right? So this is the callback which Redis will invoke. Now let's see the expired and key expired. Let's print this value, right? So it provides the listener ID as we have already discussed, right? So let's assign this to a variable. So it provides the listener, and let's say after, let's sleep for some second, because if we run this test would be over as soon as this method is over, right? So in reality we would not get callback because this method would be completed, right? But in actual reality, this must be running this in a web server. So web server must be running continuously, so you would receive the callback. So just to simulate that functionality, we have to sleep for some time, right? So sleep for some time, so that Redis can invoke the callback. So for example, sleep, and let's say the 10,000, for example 11,000. Let's give this as the value to be precise, and here we can tweak this value so that the key can be expired after 10 seconds, and we can do is bucket dot remove listener ID, right? So in this case, what we'll do is, we are just creating the key with the student colon 1 colon name with the expiry of 10 seconds, and this callback would be invoked by the Redis as soon as this key is expired. Let's run this test, and this callback would be invoked from the Redis server after 10 seconds as soon as the key is expired. So let's wait for 10 seconds and see. Okay, so if you see over here, right, so after 10 seconds the key automatically expired, and this application got the notification. If you see, this application got the notification that this key has been expired. So that's how we can implement the expiry feature in Java programming language using the Redisson library. Now let's discuss different use cases where it will be useful. The expiring key feature will be useful to implement a lot of business functionality, guys. So if you see, the very basic use case where we can use the expiry feature is to maintain or manage the user sessions. So let's see the complete flow. User logs in into the application. Let's say the app instance 1, right? It generated the token and it stores the token in Redis, right? With the user colon, for example, user colon Rahul colon token, and value is some token value. And it also set the expiry time like 10 minutes, right? Now the next request for the user goes via the load balancer, goes to the instance 2. So what instance 2 would do, instance 2 would check the Redis whether this key is present or not. If the entry is there, so it means the user is allowed to access the resource, right? So this is where we can use the Redis for session management. Now let's say the logout flow. On logout, the app instance will remove the user token from the Redis and user session would be invalidated. Now once the user session would be invalidated, there were two ways. If any of the service is using or has the local cache, right, you can use the event listeners by which you can invalidate the local cache. If not, then every request it has to go to the Redis and check whether the key is there or not. So if the key is not there, it means the user is no more active onto the application. So this is one of the prominent use case where the Redis is being used very heavily for managing the sessions. You can implement functionality like Netflix subscription, Prime Video subscription, because all those subscriptions are valid for limited time. For example, for 1 year only. Now, similar case for rented movies, right? So, for example, user has placed an order for rented movie, right? As soon as the amount is paid, the payment success callback has been received by the order service. So, it might fire one event, right? What kind of event? The event could be kind of movie rental and movie ID, and rental would be of some limited time. It could be of 24 hours, 7 days, 30 days based on the category, right? So it just fires an event. The rental service would consume this event and would store this value into the Redis with some expiry. This key can be rental colon user ID colon movie ID, right? This could be the key, and the value could be the combination of fields. For example, the movie name, movie ID, the timestamp, the order ID kind of value can be combination of multiple fields, and with the expiry. The expiry you also receives from the message set for how much time this rental is active. So as soon as user goes to watch the movie, there could be playback service, right, which would initially check whether user is allowed to watch this movie or not. So what it would do is, there is a auth service, so it would check whether this key is there or not. Rental colon user ID colon movie ID. If this key is there, so it means the user is authorized to watch this movie. Once this entry is gone, we can simply revoke the access to watch the rented movie. So this is one of the also use case where we can use the Redis in production applications. The other use case could be in Book My Show. So on Book My Show, you select the movie, then you select the seats, and once you select the seats, you got redirected into the payment page. So on payment page, you get to see the time. So by this time, you need to complete the payment. If the payment is not completed within this time frame, the seats would be released. So in this case as well, the seats are held only for specific time. For example, 10 minutes. So if the payment is not done in that time, the seats would be released. So we can use Redis in this case as well. In fact, we will create the complete project for this feature in this Redis Zero to Hero series. So that was all I had planned for today. So if this video helped you, hit like, subscribe for the Redis series, share it across with your team, and drop a comment with your questions or use cases. So I'll see you in the next video. In the next video, we will discuss more commands and data structures, and we will also code the real world use cases, right? So thanks for watching. See you in the next video.